A major winter storm is expected to impact the Midwest as we approach the middle of this week. If we were to continue to move forward, we do see a low pressure system that's just off the East Coast at this time. Expect some gustier winds and heavier rain showers associated with this low pressure system. However, there isn't enough cold air to necessarily bring a snowstorm, so this will be an entirely a rain event for the Northeast, and then it should swiftly move out into the Northeast. However, if I were to continue to move forward, we of course been talking about this low pressure system that was expected to move down the California coast, now located right in between California and Arizona at this time. And as this low pressure system continues to head further eastward, it's going to encounter a very warm and moist environment for a high amount of convection to occur for our first snowstorm to develop in the Midwest, where this should bring snow primarily in the extreme northern portions of the Midwest, mainly impacting the northern portion of Minnesota as well as South Dakota, and could impact a little bit of North Dakota as well. But primarily, the snow, at least associated with this first snowstorm, will be focused in northern Minnesota, where you could expect anywhere from 1 to 3 to 3 to 6 inches of snow. And we do see, again, this very persistent high pressure that's located right up along the East Coast. That's going to force the low pressure system to move well further northward before they could move into the Northeast. So, of course, this will, any low pressure system that's going to move into Northeast within the near future, it will primarily be entirely a rain event, as this ridge is just bringing a very strong southerly flow to bring those temperatures up to the point where the temperatures are going to be too warm to support for snow precipitation in the form of snowfall. But continuing to move forward, we do see that the snow pressure system will move in right around the late Tuesday to early Wednesday timeframe. So for your Wednesday morning commute in the areas in the northern portions of Minnesota as well as South Dakota, you need to be prepared for the possibility of heavy snowfall associated with this low pressure system. And we do see the millibar pressure is quite low, down to 987 millibars. So we could see gusty winds associated with this as well. And of course, heavier snow bands as a result of a lower pressure, which represents a higher level of convection. And continuing to move forward, we do eventually see this next low pressure system move through the four corner states, bringing heavy snowfall to the northern portions and the higher elevations of Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado, where Denver could get involved with up to 3 inches of snow. And continuing to move forward again as the slow pressure system continues to head further eastward. Behind it, there's going to be a lot of cold air, and that's going to interact with the very warm and moist environment in the southeast to not only bring severe weather to the southeast, but a heavy snowfall threat further northward, where the temperatures are cold enough to support precipitation in the form of snowfall. And continuing to move forward, we do see the slow pressure system begin to intensify as it heads further northeastward and encounters more of an unstable environment. We do see heavy snowfall move in to the Kansas area by the early portion of Thursday, and we do see heavy snowfall as well in the extreme northern portions of Texas and Oklahoma, so you need to watch out for that possibility. And at this point, it seems like the general trajectory forecasts between both of the two main computer models, the at least certainty is very high at this point, as there's very high agreement between two of the main computer models at this time. So we won't see any major variations with the forecast. So if you're forecasted to receive snowfall from this specific snowstorm, then you likely will experience snowfall, as it seems like it's unlikely we're going to see any sort of major variations with the forecast at this time. However, if you're closer to the rain snow line, you still want to be aware of the forecast, because of course, if you're closer to the rain snow line or the snow dry line, then you're more likely to experience major variations in your forecast with small variations in the trajectory of the low pressure system. So you're going to need to pay close attention to how this storm maneuvers itself over the next several days, and how small the changes are over the next several days, because that'll be important for those right up along the rain snow line, where any a small change in trajectory could make a big difference in terms of your forecast. So you want to pay close attention to that. But if you're deep in the snowfall range, and it's likely you will experience very heavy snowfall. Now, continuing to move forward, we do see the slow pressure system moves towards Illinois and does bring heavy snowfall right up along the eastern half of Iowa into Wisconsin as well. Milwaukee gets involved with heavy snowfall, and Chicago, it's going to be a close forecast for you guys. Really all depends on trajectory, because of course, if this low pressure system moves a little bit further northward, it'll mostly be a rain event, or entirely a rain event for you guys, and you wouldn't experience any snowfall accumulation in that scenario. The European model at this time is leaning towards Chicago, mainly experiencing more of a rain event rather than a snow event, but Chicago could maybe experience a trace of snowfall accumulation, especially on the backside, where we do see the backside of snow move into the Chicago area. But remember, even if the low pressure system were to move 10 miles to the north, that could mean difference between experiencing snowfall or no snowfall at all. So in Chicago, you need to be aware of the fact that any small variations could make a big difference in your area when it comes to your forecast. So this is something you're going to need to watch over the next several days, because the forecast is still far from certain from you guys whether or not you're going to experience mainly a snow event or mainly a rain event. But the general trajectory is pretty certain at this time. It's just the areas that are closer to the rain snow line where the small variations do make a bit do raise the uncertainty for your specific forecast. But continuing to move forward, we do see the low pressure system continues to intensify, and we do see again it's entirely a rain event for much of the northeast, and it doesn't look good for a lot of the snow lovers in the northeast, at least within the next week or two, as it seems like we're just going to see this persistent ridge that's just going to be parked right up along the east coast for strong southerly winds to raise the temperature too much for you guys to experience snowfall. And this is the exact scenario right here. We do see a strong enough low pressure system, but the temperatures are just too warm to support for precipitation in the form of snowfall. But for much of the Midwest, you should experience anywhere from 3 to 6 to potentially over 6 inches of snow in some localized areas. And the GFS model also agrees with this forecast. Let's take a look at a GFS model forecast right now. Taking a look at the GFS model, the GFS model is showing a very similar forecast. We do, of course, see this low pressure system that's expected to drift off into the northeast, primarily a rain event outside of the areas in the higher elevations of the Appalachian Mountains. So not much to worry about there, but just keep in mind of maybe gustier winds, especially up along the coast. But continuing to move forward, we do see that there's going to be a low pressure system that's going to move into the Midwest, creating an unstable environment. And we do see very similar trajectory, very similar area of snow. And so at this point, the forecast certainty is very high between the GFS and the European model. And continuing to move forward, we do see the trajectory is very similar with this second low pressure system as well, bringing snowfall to a lot of the same areas as the European model at this time, as it seems like both the GFS and the European model have really ironed out where the position of this ridge really determine where exactly low pressure system will go. But again, any small variations will make a pretty big difference depending on if you're close to the rain snow line or not. So keep that in mind over the next several days. But very similar forecast for the most part. So much of the Midwest should experience 3 to 6, potentially over 6 inches of snow in some areas. So this is what the European model is forecasting when it comes to snowfall over the next week. We do see that for this first snowstorm, the northern portions of Minnesota could experience over 6 inches of snow. And we do see a large area of 3 to 6 inches of snow, even extending into South Dakota. Minneapolis, it likely will be a rain event for you guys, but don't rule out the possibility of experiencing maybe some snowflakes from this first snowstorm. So definitely keep that in mind for your Wednesday morning commute for the northern portions of Minnesota and the eastern portions of South Dakota. And moving southward, where the second low pressure system will move through the Midwest, we do see that there is a pretty large area of 6 to 12 inches of snow extending from Milwaukee and as far southwest as Kansas, where we do see very heavy snowfall just to the northwest of Kansas City and just to the northwest of Chicago as well. And Chicago is right on the border between experiencing 3 to 6 inches of snow to only maybe around an inch of snow. Going to be a very close forecast, but I'll keep you guys updated over the next several days regarding Chicago specific forecast. And we do see Denver could get involved with maybe 1 to 3 inches of snow, and we do see the higher elevations of New Mexico, Colorado, as well as Arizona experiencing over 6 to 12 inches of snow. So make sure to pay close attention to that if you're in the higher elevations of those areas. Now let's take a look at what the GFS model is forecasting. We see that the GFS model is forecasting a relatively similar forecast. It just wants to bring the snowfall a little bit more northward than what the European model is stating. So in this scenario, Chicago isn't experiencing any snowfall accumulation, but again, it's a very close forecast. You guys are right on the border between experiencing snowfall to no snowfall at all. And then we do see a large areas of Kansas, Iowa, and even Wisconsin experience more than 3 to 6 inches of snow, and we do see that it even extends to northern Michigan as well. And we do see from this first snowstorm, mostly the same areas are experiencing heavy snowfall. So make sure to keep that in mind because the certainty is very high at this point. So here's my snowfall accumulation forecast when it comes to the next 2 snowstorms moving through. For the northern portions of the Minnesota, you should experience 6 to 12 inches of snow and a large area of 3 to 6 inches of snow. I'm leaning a little bit more to European model in my forecast because the European model has been the more reliable model this winter thus far. And then moving into the second snowstorm, we do see that I'm expecting around 6 to 12 inches of snow for southern Wisconsin, the extreme northwestern portions of Illinois. Iowa could experience over 6 inches of snow, as this should be a very significant snowstorm, and you need to pay close attention to this for your Thursday to Friday morning commute in some areas. So make sure to pay close attention all throughout the Midwest as we approach the mid to late week. But anyways, guys, I thank you guys for watching, and make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather related content.